Hey there, welcome to The Empowered Edge, the podcast that gives you nutrition, mindset, and habit-building strategies that actually work. I'm your host, Jenna Hostetler, registered dietitian, certified neurocoach, and your go-to guide to break free from burnout, cut through the health noise, and reclaim control of your body and brain. Each week, you'll get practical, science-backed strategies so you can stop second-guessing yourself, sharpen your focus, and finally feel like the woman who leads her life, not just survives it. Last week, I gave you a framework for setting goals that will actually get you results. And part of that framework was tracking what you do so that you can make adjustments as needed. And there's one important detail that I didn't include last week, and that is what today is all about. There's an exercise I do in one of my programs where I ask people how committed are they to the goal on a scale of 1 to 10. After everyone submits their answer, I tell them that if they're not a 10, they're a 1. Because you can't be partially committed. You either are or you aren't. And if your commitment level is a 9, then there's a point where you will say, it's not worth it, not today, I'm too tired, it's too much, I'll do it later, because you're not committed. And I've recognized that I can be a strong 9 on a lot of my goals. I am gung-ho almost all the time, but I think because I have so much I want to get done, I rarely build in breaks. I will go hard for weeks and then crash, or I will go hard all day, and what I was going to do in the evening has about a 50% chance of getting done. And I get to figure out what I'm going to do with that information, because I want to be someone whose yes means yes, no matter what. I've pretty much nailed my mornings, which I'm happy about, and it took quite a while to get there. So now I get to crush my evenings. And here's a great thing about commitment. Commitment doesn't care about your feelings, and it requires you to do what you said you would do, regardless of everything around you. I recently opened up a 30-day community for some people, and just like most communities, it starts out kind of strong and then people fizzle out. And I do not love communities anyway. I don't like being in online communities, and I definitely don't love moderating them. And I was getting really frustrated at the lack of involvement, and I was thinking, I'm not going to show up if they're not going to show up. And that thought lasted for about 12 hours before I remembered something that I had written down about commitment, especially in relationships. Relationships are not 50-50, because that means that your commitment is dependent on somebody else's. I can't only show up in my community that I created for my people if they show up. Because then what happens? Oh, well, you didn't post, so I didn't get in there. Or, oh, well, you didn't do your thing, so I didn't do my thing. And it's this back and forth of, I'm only going to do it if you do it. But that is not how leaders show up. That is not how high performers show up. And let's be honest, that line of thinking is just a great excuse to not do something you probably didn't want to do anyway. So when I realized this, I decided that I get to give 100% even if everybody in the group gives 0. Because that is how I show up. Because I created this and I am committed to these people, and if I don't show up, then they can't. So my commitment does not hinge on them, and I get to follow through on everything I said I would do, regardless of anybody else. That is how we get to show up with our goals. So when we're talking about action-based goals, we have to evaluate the results we're getting so that we can make adjustments and see progress, which means we must track. Whether it's in business, health, starting a hobby, learning something new, no matter what it is, there's almost always something to track. Maybe not so much for a short-term goal, but definitely for long-term goals. And part of tracking is tracking yourself. Are you doing what you said you would? Are your plans realistic? Are you following through? If you're planning to work on a project every day after work and you're always tired so you don't do it, you have 3 options. Do it anyway, no matter how tired you are. Do it another time when you're not as tired. Or figure out why you're so tired and work on fixing that first. But if you don't track your progress, you'll never notice enough why things aren't working to do something about it. So the first thing we must do is track. The second thing we must do, which is where commitment comes in, is we must do it long enough to know what's working. So when we're talking about action-based goals, we're saying, I'm going to do this thing for this amount of time. If your goal is health-related, you might walk every day after work, or pack a lunch so there's no eating out, or eliminate alcohol. But you have to commit to doing that thing for a long enough time to see how it affects you. I like 30 days. You might eliminate alcohol for 30 days and not really notice anything until day 27. Then you start to see you're sleeping better and suddenly drop 5 pounds. So you decide to do it for 10 more days. But you have to commit to doing the thing if you're ever going to see results. And as you're doing it and tracking your behavior, you'll notice if things in your approach need to shift. But here's the part I want you to hear. If you are not committed, you don't give yourself the opportunity to see what works. So as you're working on the thing you want to accomplish, ask yourself, am I a 10? Because if you're not a 10, you're a 1. which means you'll only get your results as long as it's convenient, which means you'll never get there. So your homework for this week is to listen to last week's episode if you haven't already, evaluate where your commitment lies in whatever you're working on in life, and in your relationships and at work, and ask yourself, what does it take to be a 10? If I'm not a 10, am I okay never experiencing the life I want? And I know you're not going to be okay being anything less than a 10 because you're listening to this podcast. So if you've not already downloaded Goal Getter, because I talk about it all the time since it is crucial to creating the life you want, do that now and get started on it. If you have downloaded it, then as soon as that goal becomes a routine part of your life, go through the process again with the next thing. And remember to always take action and stay empowered. You have everything you need to get where you need to go. And I'll see you next time. Okay, now before you pop off, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the one episode that could change your life. And give us a 5-star review if you learned something new today. If you want to check out all the awesome free guides, templates, and resources I've given away on this podcast, go to theneurodietitian.com/resources. You can grab anything you want, but only if you'll do it. Because information without implementation is worthless. And here at The Empowered Edge, we're action takers, not excuse makers.